Hey everybody, welcome back to Filmatic. I'm here, your host Nabil Sharif, and I'm joined today by the one, the only Ben Hartvigsen.
Rhea.
Oh, no, see, you thought. No, this time we have Ben Hartvigsen because no one else wants to watch any Marvel-related content. But some of us have a duty, and that duty is left up to us. How you doing, Ben?
Doing pretty well. How are you?
All right. You've been playing any video games recently, Ben? Or
No.
no? You're not really a big video game guy.
No, but there is this guy named Bossk. You know.
Oh,
If they made a game about him, I might have to play it.
that's a good point. All right, so we are here today to talk about WandaVision. You know, you've seen it. Whether you're into that stuff or not, I'm sure you've seen it online, trending. It's the big thing right now in entertainment. Disney Plus show WandaVision. We're up to episode 8, I believe now.
I think the next one will be 8. We just had 7.
Yes, so the next one's going to be 8, and then I think there's one more after that. So
Yeah.
we're really finishing up here, but we wanted to come to you guys and just kind of give our thoughts so far, our expectations, and just talk about it for a little bit in this quick little episode. I think for one, since we are kind of coming into this a little bit late, we could kind of talk about some of the stuff that happened early on, or at least the tone and mood. So what did you think of the kind of eras, I would say, first, right? So in the beginning we had that 50s era, 60s, 70s, 80s, and now we're up to kind of Modern Family / Office era. What did you think of all this?
I think it's like, I don't know, because typically I like a lot of the Marvel stuff. I'm surprised by how kind of creative and original a lot of the sitcom stuff has caused the show to be so far. I mean, even watching the most recent episode, it was just wild to think like the show all started with a completely played straight episode about like a 1950s sitcom having the boss over for dinner. I think the first two were very interesting. The kind of idea of putting these superheroes in a context you don't normally see them in. But I think it's been interesting then to watch the kind of blending of your kind of typical Marvel stuff with this sitcom reality and the lines kind of blurring.
Yeah, I agree. And I think you touched on a good point there with one thing that I will commend for sure is, like you said, in the beginning, there was maybe like one instance in that first episode of any sort of indication of there being an outside world. Right. Outside of their sitcom, and as it went forward slowly, and then kind of breaking through, I guess, in the middle, where you get exposed to kind of the illusion. So I really think they did a good job with the pacing there. I know a lot of people I've seen online have been a little like, oh, you know, we wanted more sitcom-esque kind of environment before breaking through with the sword stuff. But to be honest, I think that the sword stuff is just as interesting, and they did a really good job blending the two kind of
right. I think
worlds.
The sword stuff is kind of that's the plot that ties into the bigger piece, and that's the part that at the end of the day most people are kind of more invested in, that idea of, okay, this isn't real. But I think that even then, I mean, we're still getting, because even the most recent episode, where I won't go into spoilers quite yet, but you had characters interacting and acting in ways that like affect the outside world and story, and kind of this whole idea that none of them are aware they're in a sitcom has been completely dropped. But the way that they're giving that exposition and the way that they're interacting with each other and everything is still very much structured like that sitcom. So I don't think you even necessarily lose a lot of that sitcom charm that you got in those early episodes. You only start to gain then kind of more context and more creativity.
Yeah, I agree. Like, even though the characters most of them have become almost fully aware that they're in the sitcom, which isn't really a spoiler. I mean, come on, right. It's episode 8 of 9 or something, 7 of 9. But even then, there's still, like you said, perfectly, still charm, still a lot of hijinks. You know, for example, in this Office one, we have moments where characters are speaking to the camera as kind of talking heads portions similar to The Office or Modern Family, which
Right.
worked pretty well. I mean, pretty fun. So that was great, and I agree. What do you think of Jimmy Woo?
Oh, you can't talk about the show without talking about Jimmy Woo.
Jimmy Woo kind of stole the show for a lot of people.
He did, and this is going to be a controversial statement. I love Jimmy Woo. I think there's not enough. I think, to be honest, the reaction has almost been an overreaction based on how much he's been in it. We need more.
Right.
I think all the supposed talks about maybe a Jimmy Woo solo show. Right. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I mean, people have been saying. I heard that that idea trended on Twitter, and it was a writer, and he actually kind of alluded to the fact that he probably will be pitching that idea to Marvel, which sounds pretty crazy. To have a Jimmy Woo type Disney Plus series with a kind of X-Files vibe, for those who don't know. Yeah.
Right, and even then, I think that the not only the Jimmy Woo character that everyone's fallen in love with, but the idea of kind of an X-Files style show set in the Marvel universe on its own is interesting, because so much of it is focused on these like big serialized events and everything, and we get some world building in there, but it would be really interesting to get kind of a boots on the ground look at things, almost like we got with The Mandalorian, at least the first season of it, where it's these small serialized episodes, and maybe there's a bigger story at the end of the day, but it's a lot of just world building around kind of corners instead of building up these giant characters for big crossovers and everything.
Yeah, for sure. And I do think that that's something that I hope Disney follows. I mean, I know that they're seeing from the most trending parts of WandaVision and from Mandalorian season 2 that profit-wise, and maybe a lot of people besides us just really like that fan service to an extent, maybe more so than myself personally. But I hope that while they recognize that and they still implement that as they have to get people to watch, you know, like you're saying with this X-Files stuff, you know, just make shows that are set in the Marvel universe or set with Marvel, you know, content or properties that are separate from the larger universe and are just fun things, like the X-Files one. I would watch. What if they made Pawn Stars, but like it's Marvel? You know what I'm saying? Like,
there you go.
It would be crazy.
Storage Wars.
They could do Storage Wars, and then like one side is the Collector and the other side is Grandmaster. There you go. That would just be funny.
The sad thing is that would do crazy numbers.
It would, and you know what? It probably would still be pretty funny. It wouldn't even be that bad. Yeah. And like, think about it. You remember when they did the web series for Civil War Thor Ragnarok with Thor living with the housemate? That was really funny stuff. And that's another thing where it's just like they have the successful piece of the puzzle, which is Thor, and they just mix it with real life stuff and or just other funny stuff that doesn't necessarily have to pertain to a larger universe. And obviously they embraced that with Thor Ragnarok, it seems, a little bit. And I hope that vibe continues. So
yeah, and even then, I mean, I think by fleshing out these smaller pieces, that fleshes out the whole universe as well.
I think we should also talk about is one thing I wanted to ask you specifically as we kind of get deeper into this. I think one thing that I have thought about as we watch this show was how good of a job does the show and is the show doing in portraying the connection between Wanda and Vision, right? Because before the show, all we really had was Civil War. They have like 2 scenes where they're just with each other. You know, I don't know if necessarily there's a lot of emotional kind of character growth to an extent. Civil War, Avengers Infinity War, we see that they're living together at a point, and obviously she kills Vision at the end, which I think was probably their most emotional scene in the movie franchise. Yeah. So I think that coming into this, and to a degree still, for me, something that I'm thinking about is how much am I buying into this? It seems sometimes to me it felt a little sudden to be kind of advancing this. You know, they're madly in love with each other, and she's in this grief, and that's something I want to get into as well later. But I just want to know kind of if you have any thoughts about their relationship, and if you think it's been sculpted enough, or if you think it will continue to be. Maybe we still need 2 more episodes. I don't know, but how do you feel about it?
I mean, I think it's done a better job in the show than any of the previous pieces of media. Because, I mean, you think they were both only introduced back in Age of Ultron, which had its own, like, weird forced romance between Black Widow and the Hulk that was bizarre. And I don't know. Like, I don't think they've ever, until WandaVision, I don't think they ever really committed to it and really selling it. I mean, I think they tried in Civil War or in Infinity War just because they knew they were going to go for that big emotional payoff. But I don't think that for a lot of it, because like in Civil War, I guess it was there, but to be honest, I can't remember any big specific moments of the two of them having strong interactions. I could be very wrong. And they could have that, but I think even if it's there, the fact that I don't remember it is a sign that it just wasn't that great. And I think that they've done what they can, but I mean, I think you can only do so much. And part of it is just having to embrace the fact that, like, they were living together before Infinity War, and you had to accept
leaving it up to the viewer to kind of fill those lines in.
Right, that there were empty spaces, and so I don't think I've had a moment where it's felt like their relationship was ingenuine, but I also don't know if, as the viewer, I have felt that build to a natural way where I am necessarily as kind of emotionally invested as they seem to think. Like in the most recent episode, when one of the characters tells Vision that like their love
is real,
and that they have this deep love for each other. I'm not sure I've seen that, but I think they do have pretty good chemistry. And I think the idea of this sitcom and kind of simplifying their relationship and displaying it through means that we are very accustomed to seeing is an effective way to translate that into something kind of a little more short form, like a TV show.
Yeah, that's a very good take. I pretty much agree with that. And I think that, well, I mean, depending on the result of the series and where that leaves the characters, it really depends. But this potentially could, like you said, they're doing the best they can, and it could usher in kind of a new level of character chemistry and growth together. But I guess that all really depends on where they're going to be following the series, and we'll get into that too as we get into spoilers. But
well, I guess something I'd ask you is, what's your take on because I mean, Disney Plus has really been trying to push this weekly release model that's not been very common for a lot of the other streaming services. Places like Netflix, where a new season of something like Stranger Things comes out, they just dump it all on there at once. They embrace the idea that people are going to binge watch it. It seems like Disney Plus, seemingly just to kind of drag out subscription, that they are doing this weekly release model.
Yeah.
What's your take on that, and do you think it's effective for a show like this?
One thing I want to say is, I saw someone post this online the other days. We will be getting a new piece of Marvel content.
I saw that
every week this year, essentially, besides like 1 week in between series, and even then they're dropping like a behind the scenes thing. So technically, till the end of this year, there will be a new episode of something on Disney Plus, which, from a business perspective, is just genius. I mean, Disney Plus, I believe, is already like 100% above its projections of where they want it to be. Their goal for where they wanted their subscribers to be by 2026, they've reached now because of the pandemic and because of the success of this, and all of that kind of rolled together, which is crazy, and its own other topic, of course. Now, as for how I feel about the weekly model, I think it really depends by series, personally. For example, like this, again, if I was a writer for this show, perfect for this show. I mean, you got people talking about it, guessing, no matter what platform you go on, Instagram, Twitter, whatever, what you'll see at least something in the mainstream. And if you're following anything related to any kind of movies or TV profile, subreddit, whatever, you will be seeing something about this. So it is 100% the best possible scenario for this series. Now, having seen the series, without getting into spoilers still, having seen up to episode 7 so far, do I think my opinion of this would be different if it was all released as one? Yes. I think that a lot of my feelings about certain big drops and things, cliffhangers, would kind of be tempered by being able to see the result of them in the next episode, because in my opinion, some of those were pretty underwhelming, especially recently, which we'll get into.
Yeah.
Again, it doesn't make it necessarily a bad thing. It just really is case by case in how you feel about it. But I will say that they know exactly what they're doing, and it's going to profit them immensely. And as a viewer, it is going to help You will. It's just proven that you will feel better about it and want to see more of it, which will therefore positively enforce your feelings about continuing to watch it. And it's just funny because, and I was talking to Manny about this a few days ago, was the fact that this all started, television in the 50s, 60s, 70s up till the last decade or two have been, oh man, we gotta watch Dallas on Thursday nights, we gotta watch Seinfeld on Sunday nights, whatever it was, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then for Netflix to boom and be like, oh, we're dropping all these episodes, you gotta watch 13 Reasons Why, you gotta watch Daredevil, you gotta watch whatever you want all on one night. And that, I think, again, that was great reception at the time in 2012 or whatever it was, but it just chewed through people's brains, it seems like, because now people are clamoring for this weekly release thing because it keeps the tensions up, it keeps people guessing, and I think that's what the human brain really wants, is to be stimulated, because they're going to get more out of 10 weeks of stimulation than one weekend. So it's really just funny to see how that came full circle. But
but I don't know, I do agree with your original sentiment more that it depends pretty heavily on, I think that something like this that kind of builds up the suspense, and so much of the intrigue of the show is these unanswered questions. I think that it benefits from this kind of longer form, like every week you get 20 to 30 minutes of a window into this world, and you get kind of a slow drip feed of answers and stuff like that. But I feel like The Mandalorian was okay as well. I'm not sure it was as necessarily something like this.
Yeah.
But if you look at like Amazon Prime and the way they released season 2 of The Boys, which is also a great show.
Yeah.
I think, because I mean, if you look at that, the buzz was really high for the first couple weeks of that show, and then it just completely dropped off. Because that show is not built in a way that it's kind of keeping you guessing and fostering all the kind of like theories and stuff that everyone's doing online with WandaVision. That's a very kind of, not that it isn't good, but it's much more cut and dry with what happens, and it's more traditional with its storytelling. And I think that benefits more from being able to watch it in quick succession, because it is filmed and expected to be consumed like a movie. It was built like a pretty traditional streaming show right now. You mentioned things like Daredevil, 13 Reasons Why, and those are directed for streaming services in a very specific way, I think, to foster the idea that you're watching basically one long movie. Whereas something like this, or something like The Mandalorian that has individual small stories, or is building that tension, kind of those questions, it is more effective. And if you can keep the buzz up and you can keep people really intrigued, I think it's a much more effective release model. But I think if you're doing things in the way that's become so common for TV anymore, just release it all at once.
Again, The Boys is a great example. The Boys, I think, even with The Boys, like, I get the impression from after watching that season that they didn't, at least to me, it seems like they didn't know it was going to be released weekly. It really does feel like, and I know they did, like, the first 2 episodes were released, and then they did one. Something like that, I think, would have even benefited from doing 3 at a time. You know what I mean? Like chapters, maybe.
Yeah.
But I didn't think about that initially. It also depends how the directors and the writers are viewing it, and that leads into kind of how is the studio treating the directors and writers. And with something like Disney, of course, we know that they're probably getting a very decent heads up under the supervision of Kevin Feige and whatnot. But I agree. So anything else you want to say before we delve into spoilers? Anything you want to say to people who are maybe on the fence about this show or what have you?
I mean, I would say, because I don't know, after Endgame, I felt like I was pretty burned out on a lot of the Marvel stuff. And I, even controversial take for this podcast, didn't absolutely hate Far From Home.
Pretend I didn't hear that.
But I thought that kind of, we've come to the end of the story they were trying to tell, and I was curious about specific projects, things like Guardians of the Galaxy, and some of the more innovative things like Taika Waititi. I think he's a great director. Him working on the Thor movie is very exciting, but I felt kind of burned out on the universe, and it's been really intriguing for this to be kind of instead of something like Black Widow or Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which could be great, but to me seem very, very, very kind of standard and typical. I think that this has been a great reintroduction because, I mean, it's just so good and so unique as to what Marvel has been putting out that it makes me excited for the future of the franchise.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with that. I mean, if you are even casually interested in the Marvel movies, and I'm sure that a lot of people are just really wanting content right now, as we're still kind of, a lot of us still stuck inside and just looking for stuff to do among school and whatnot. I mean, why not? Give it a try. I mean, at this point, you'll be able to binge a lot of the episodes if you wanted. But, I mean, if you don't want to, just watch an episode a week like we did, you know? I mean, it is... and as I get into spoilers, and some people will hear, I still have some kind of things about it that I think I have had with a lot of Marvel movies where it could be a little more fleshed out for me personally in some of the kind of concerns I have. But overall, and this is somewhat surprising for me to say because I didn't expect this going in, is that it's fairly solid. It's entertaining. It is engaging if you're interested in the universe. It's engaging if you just want a good, TV series to watch with drama and tension. And Jimmy Woo is a god. Jimmy Woo. Whew, hit me with the woo. And edit that out.
No, keep that in.
Keep it in. But no, pretty much, there's no reason why not. Check it out. If you like it, keep watching it. If you don't, maybe not. I don't know. I don't know how essential. Okay, well, it seems like it might be pretty essential to the whole universe, and we will only see as it goes forward with these last 2 episodes. But if I know anything about Marvel, it's that, and Disney, it's that they don't want to leave anyone out. So whether you watch this or not, I think that they will fill you in somehow. However,
if you're a big fan of Jared Leto's Joker, just wait till episode 6.
We live in a society.
Okay, maybe cut that one out.
Maybe. Or maybe we'll just switch this to a Justice League episode. No, but yeah. So from here on out, we're going to delve into some spoilers. So up to episode 7 of WandaVision, and this is your final warning. Here we go. So, what do we think? What do we think of what just happened in episode 7?
Well,
I know I have some mixed feelings.
I mean, I don't think it's a bad twist. I think it's just
it's just the most predictable twist.
Right. But at the same time, so for anyone listening that doesn't quite know what we're talking about, if you haven't watched it or whatever, and you just don't care about the spoilers, there was just the reveal that one of the side characters, Agnes, at least seemingly is behind everything. Whether or not that'll be the overall kind of villain for the whole series anyway, we have yet to see. But I don't know. I think that it would have been, at least giving a character who is in the show the role of a villain, because I think it would have been, I know a lot of people online are speculating about Mephisto, all these kind of comic characters that we just haven't had any indication of in the show so far. And I think that if they're going to go with a villain, which I don't think they're going to have Wanda turn out to be this villainous character, even though I think that could be a very interesting angle to take. I think for general audiences, it only makes sense to have a character that is in the show be at least one of the primary antagonists.
And that's what I'm hoping. I understand that you have to kind of take that into consideration, the casual viewer, and even if that's the direction they just wanted to go, and I understand that. But I think for all of this to only be, Agatha, I think it's a little bit of a letdown. Not to say that it'll ruin the series. I mean, there's still 2 episodes left. What I'm hoping is that there are some more kind of insidious connections going on, and it seems like there might be. We got some indications of that.
I think it absolutely will be.
I am almost certain Mephisto will be a part of this, but it's just a question of how much. And I think what made this even more of somewhat of a letdown for me and some other people was the last episode before this, episode 6, and some of episode 5, but especially episode 6. I mean, there was a lot of tension going into this episode. Who's going to be the aerospace engineer that Monica's talking about? Who's going to be the villain? What's going to happen with Vision and extending the borders of the X? And I feel like all of those just kind of got mostly not enough. The build-up was too much. You know what I mean? It's not necessarily like there were bad resolutions, but it was just an insane build-up. and that's one of the, I don't know if I want to say cons, but one of the aspects that we could also talk about with this kind of weekly release thing is that you get going higher, higher, higher to the peak of this tension, to the point where for maybe some viewers, when they get that resolution or whatever is written, it may not be what they envisioned, and then you're just below their own expectations. So, and again, one thing I was really excited for was to see who the aerospace engineer was, and
it was just such a
It was just So I mean, what did you think?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. This episode because I felt like we had been kind of crescendoing every single episode, and like it was fine, but I was shocked. It felt like it started and ended so quick. And I think that, I don't know, it feels to me like episode 7 was, we've been building up and kind of all these major events have been happening. And this episode felt like it was kind of just getting all the pieces in place for the final 2 episodes, which seemed like they were going to be kind of the biggest and most eventful. And so this one just felt almost like it was kind of just getting everyone where they need to be for that. Like you had Monica entering the Hex, like finding her powers. You had Wanda and Agnes, like you had that whole realization. And then you had things like Vision finding out his backstory and stuff like that. Like it all just felt very much like it was setting up for something more. Like you undoubtedly are going to have Vision and Wanda having a confrontation about what's going on now that Vision knows the truth, but it almost felt like this should have been a longer episode and this should have been the first half.
Yeah, I would have rather them done 2-parter and just finish this up, but I agree. And again, like when the beginning of this episode, when they were like Jimmy Woo and Monica are driving and they're going to meet this aerospace engineer, that was the most hyped I've been for a development in a long time in a Marvel project, right? And I was excited, and then it was just like, oh, man. And I know there's some theories out there that the military officer is like a Skrull from Captain Marvel, that maybe
But
Monica,
even then, there weren't any indications of that.
There weren't. And even then, Captain Marvel let me down to such a degree with the Skrulls and with Captain Marvel characters themselves that I don't even know if I would have been like, if she just turned into a Skrull, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I will say my favorite part of the episode probably was definitely Monica getting her powers and becoming a superhero, and I'm excited to see that in the future.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And another thing is, I think a lot of us thought and I guess this is still to be seen, but of course the one on everyone's mind is the Quicksilver, Pietro. And,
and I think that there's something to unpack there.
I really hope so.
Obviously, there's things we don't know.
For sure. And if there's one thing I'm sure that everyone's hoping is that he wasn't all just an illusion, and that this is some sort of indication of the multiverse or Fox or whatever.
Did you see the after credit scene or whatever, the most recent episode? Because I missed it the first time. I had to go back and watch it.
Yeah, I also went back and watched it. And for those who didn't see it, it's Monica. She goes up to Agatha's house, looks around, sees the basement, turns around, Quicksilver's there, and he's like, Snooper's gonna snoop. And I see, okay, one thing I didn't look at, which maybe I should have, was that I couldn't tell if his eyes were like purple or if he had a purple aura around him, which would imply that he was like under her magic. But when Monica looks at him, when Monica looks at him, her eyes are purple. So I don't know.
But yeah, I don't know. I almost I know a lot of people are hoping that the reveal is going to be that he is Mephisto, or that he is the mysterious Ralph we've been hearing about the whole time, anything like that. But honestly, I would be more intrigued by him being she pulled him from another dimension, put him in the MCU, and has him under some kind of control, because I think the implications of that, personally, are far more interesting, because it means
100%.
that we're going to get some of that Fox, at least a lot of the highlights of it, the MCU, versus just, it's a look-alike, whatever.
Mm-hmm. And part of that also is, as everyone is talking about, who's talking about it, Paul Bettany said that there is one more big cameo coming in these last few episodes, and it's someone he's wanted to work with his whole life. So people are speculating that this will be either Magneto or Professor X, which I think are pretty good guesses. I could see either of those.
Yeah. Because I think, since we've already gotten the introduction of Jared Leto's joke, I think it would be interesting if they brought in Joaquin Phoenix.
That would be pretty good. Yeah. I was thinking maybe Bossk from
Oh,
Star
Bossk.
Wars.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe he's
Yeah,
Ralph, really.
you know a lot about Bossk.
Yeah. Is this something you wanted me to talk about, or?
Yeah, could we just have a quick little Bossk, just a couple minutes? Could you just give us some Bossk
Yeah,
facts?
sure. So, for those who don't know, Bossk is a character in George Lucas's Star Wars. He first appeared in The Empire Strikes Back as one of the 6 bounty hunters that Darth Vader hired to hunt down the Millennium Falcon, alongside Boba Fett and a few other characters we won't get into right now. But he's basically a Trandoshan. And I did have to look that one up. That's the one thing I didn't remember. But the rest of this I'm not looking up for the record. Okay, he's a Trandoshan. He's basically this kind of lizard humanoid kind of amalgamation. And he is one of the most feared bounty hunters of the galaxy. Okay. Now, what do you need to know about Bossk? Here, let me hit you with some bullet points, all right? Boom. Hates Wookiees. He is a Wookiee racist, okay? Don't let this guy near your Wookiees. And, of course, we have the fact that he was Boba Fett's mentor. Did you know that? He was Boba Fett's mentor in the early days. And he has just been a long-time rival of Han Solo and Chewie. What do you think so far?
I mean, I think you should make this a weekly thing. Every week you give some information about Bossk.
We will. How about this? We'll dedicate a moment each episode to give you, the viewers, a few more Bossk facts. And
It's like a weekly release schedule.
Yeah, it's gonna be a weekly release
Wanda.
schedule, just like inspired by Disney, and it's gonna be great. I hope everyone liked those facts, and we're gonna be coming back at you next week with more facts. All right, thank you. That was my Bossk moment. We're gonna have a theme song too. It's gonna be great.
It's gonna be great. Yeah, James Kim, get on it.
Get on it, James. So, talked about Quicksilver. Now, what do you think is gonna happen with? See, one thing I'm thinking about is, as a lot of people might know, there are many stories in the comics with Scarlet Witch and House of M, where she creates her own reality, and there are a lot of parallels with the twins and Vision being alive and dead. And one thing that a lot of people are speculating is, A, are her kids real? B,
No.
will Vision survive? Or is this the last time we're going to see Vision is in this series, for now? Or, because he is a freaking corpse, am I right? So, I don't know.
Right.
And D or C, I forgot what letter I'm on because I'm reading something. But will Wanda become a villain post this series? And I have some thoughts about that, but I want to hear what you think of any of those first.
Yeah, so I'm torn on I'll start with the Vision piece. I'm pretty torn because on one hand I feel like one of the things we're missing in the MCU is a real kind of feeling of stakes, and that almost every time they've killed a character off, they've brought them back, with the exception of, I guess, technically still Quicksilver, and then so far Tony and Cap. Cap obviously not really being killed off, but having kind of his finale, and even then it sounds like they're in talks to bring him back again. And you have smaller characters like Yondu, stuff like that, and sure, Black Widow is dead, but is still getting a movie. So on one hand, I like the idea of having some stakes, and having things kind of have their payoff, and I think for Wanda's character, it would be more interesting to have her have to accept losing Vision for good than have it be, okay, Vision, is just back now. But on the other hand, this is probably the most interesting Vision has been as a character to me so far. I mean, I thought they set him up pretty well in Age of Ultron, but since then he's just kind of been a plot device or just kind of a background character. But yeah, I'm probably leaning towards, and it seems like the show is building towards him making yet another self-sacrifice and Wanda having to kind of accept the repercussions of that and accept her loss. As for the kids, I don't know. I can't tell where they're going with it, and I think it's ominous that they just kind of disappeared. I've heard some speculation that they're trying to build towards some kind of Young Avengers or something with this, Miss Marvel, the Hawkeye show, stuff like that. That being said, I don't really know how I feel about that, and again, I think it would be more interesting to have Wanda, especially if Vision is not going to die, to have her have to accept that her kids are not real, or are some kind of evil entity or something like that, and have to give something up. As for Wanda, I think it would be an interesting angle to have her be evil, but I feel like we've already seen a little bit of that in Age of Ultron, and I think that I don't see that being the road they go down.
Mm-hmm.
That she becomes this evil character. I think it's much more likely that she, by the end of this all, comes to the realization and kind of accepts her own trauma, and maybe she becomes some kind of outcast or something, and there is a change in her status quo. I don't think she'll come out of this the same that she came into it. That being said, I just don't think that they'll make her like a purely villainous character after WandaVision.
Yeah. One thing I will say, like, whether she's villainous or not, it all depends. But one thing I really hope they don't do, which I'm afraid they're going to do, especially with this reveal that it was Agatha all along and she did everything. I hope that she, in some way, is to blame and has to deal with the blame of taking over all these people and causing so much destruction and what have you. And I just hope that it isn't all, it was Mephisto and Agatha. You know what I mean? I really, really would like you said, Marvel, one infamous thing with Marvel is that they are not very hesitant to, they are hesitant to allow any stakes whatsoever. And I just want some steaks. Give me some steaks. I'm going to Outback Steakhouse. Give me some steaks. But, yeah. So that's what I think.
Yeah. And we'll see. I think that it could go either way, but I agree. I think there needs to be some kind of fallout for this show, not only for the characters, but also just to kind of justify, okay, if you're someone who keeps up with the MCU, and you already are going and seeing however many movies they put out a year, and it seems like that's only going to grow, like, why should you care about these TV shows as well? I think that having some kind of bigger fallout and some bigger implications of these shows from a business standpoint means more people are going to watch them, more people are going to be invested in them.
Yeah.
And that means more people are going to subscribe to the service.
And I'm sure that they got that impression from a critical or fan or audience rating standpoint of the difference between episodes 5 and 6 and the latest one with that payoff. So I guess we'll see what they do with that. So with the kids, I know you mentioned might be setting up Young Avengers. I also heard that. I think it is likely because you have a pretty up-and-coming group of Young Avengers, it seems, right?
Right.
You have Tom Holland, Spider-Man. You have the new Kate Bishop character that will be introduced in Hawkeye series. You have both these Young Avengers. Both these, I'm forgetting what their names are, Billy and Tommy. And I think it is very likely they will set that up. It just seems like a no-brainer to set up a Young Avengers movie. So
but I'm going to be honest.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm sold on it. Like, I just don't know if I'm invested enough for something like the Young Avengers. Granted, we haven't met half the characters yet, but I mean, personally, so far, I don't have any investment in her kids. Like, I am more interested in the effect on her character, that whatever happens to them than I am in the kids. Like, besides them being children, I mean, I don't really have any investment in them. I feel like they haven't been characterized very much. I think that may be on purpose. But if they are going to move forward with something like Young Avengers with those characters, then I think they're going to definitely need to show up in something else and really kind of, whether it's another show, whether it's that they announce that they're getting their own show, but we would definitely need them to be fleshed out.
And that, of course, depends on the outcome of the series and what happens to them, if they're real or not. I mean, there is, of course, one of the only, I think, one out of two, if not the only storyline where Agatha, because in most storylines, Agatha, from what I've seen, is a mentor / kind of accomplice to Scarlet Witch. Right. And one of the only ones where she is an actual villain or anti-hero or whatever is one where she tries to use Wanda's illusions and magic to harvest her kids from Wanda, because her kids are pieces of Mephisto's soul.
Right.
And so I'm not sure what they're going to do. Knowing Marvel, it'll probably be a weird cross between that and something else and something new. So it's really anyone's guess at this point. But again, from a profitability standpoint, from a business standpoint, I definitely do not see those kids being fake or being erased. Again, just going off the thing of Marvel doesn't like to take stakes.
Right.
I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they'll erase them and they'll bring them back in a few years for whatever young thing they're doing. But I definitely don't think they're going very far. That's for sure.
Yeah.
What do you think? Do you think that Vision's gonna survive this whole ordeal in some way or another?
I mean, see, there's two sides for me. There's the kind of cynical side saying, I don't think that they will let him go just because. So there's a cynical side of me that's saying I don't think that they'll let him go because he is such a kind of major piece of the universe at this point, and he's been around, and they just don't seem to like to take characters out of the universe. They just like to put them in. That being said, if I'm looking at this in a bubble and I'm kind of getting rid of that cynicism, I do feel like they are building towards him having to accept that and Wanda having to accept that he's gone. Like all the stuff.
That's the dream. That's the hope.
Right. That's the kind of idea of the show. And I think it would be such a big cop-out for them to then turn around and say, oh, never mind.
Yeah.
Especially now that he's gotten his memories back. Because at least you could have done this whole thing where, like, and maybe this is still what they'll do. Okay, he's still around, but he's forgotten who he is, and he's a completely different person. One has to deal with that. At least that's some kind of stakes. But I don't know. I feel like there's just not.
Yeah. Every logical.
Not, right.
Every logical thread and story. The storyteller, I think, and me and all of us really is saying this guy should not make it out of this. Like in most ways, I think that. Again, like you said, it would be really bad if they just somehow downloaded him onto a USB and give him a new body or something. You know what I mean? Because that's some stuff they would do. That being said, yeah. Go ahead.
As I said, I mean, this is some of the most interesting he's been, and so there is a part of me that's like, oh, I mean, I think it would be interesting to explore this character more. But at the same time, the more I think about it, I mean, he's not all that complex a character now. I think you could put him in some story context where he is. But with everything else going on in the universe, I just don't know if there's going to necessarily be a place for him to fit in even anymore.
Because this is definitely the best he's been played and the best he's been written, and by far.
I think for both Paul Bettany and Elizabeth Olsen, this is some of the. Not that either of them have done a bad job so far, but I think that they're putting on some of their best performances we've seen, partially just because of their incredible ability to jump back and forth between this goofy sitcom and then, especially Elizabeth Olsen, snap into this kind of deadly serious mode. And I think for her as well, it helps to not have to put on her weird, like, vaguely European accent.
Yeah. And that's one thing I just keep coming back to is, like, I just really hope that this Quicksilver thing pans out, and it's like we've been kind of saying all along is like I hope a lot of this has some meaning beyond just illusions made to screw with Wanda for the big bad Agatha and or Mephisto. So we'll definitely see where that goes. We got 2 episodes left, so
right. But quickly on the note of will Magneto show up? Is Quicksilver actually Quicksilver? I do think the thing they run the risk of with all that is, and I think it's really hard, they're in a position now where I don't know how they're going to retcon in the idea of mutants. But at the same time, I think it would be kind of a shame to drag. I don't think it would be the case necessarily for Patrick Stewart or Ian McKellen because they are such great portrayals of those characters. But I think for things like Cyclops, and I think Hugh Jackman has done an incredible job, but I think at this point, Wolverine, if you bring in those X-Men characters, then the risk you run is robbing us of kind of these new interpretations of these characters, and that people will just go, oh, well, Magneto from the old X-Men movies is in here, so where's Jennifer Lawrence's Mystique, or where's this character, that character? And so I'm hesitant because I don't know how else they'd fit them in and allow them to keep kind of their backstories and everything without them being super young, if we're not going to do a time jump, unless we're going to have some kind of weird collision of universes or something like that. But I don't know. Yeah. I think that it's a risky game because I am really, I think it would be really cool. I think that Quicksilver, Magneto, Professor X, those are all great portrayals of those characters I'd like to see again. But I don't know if it's worth solidifying the portrayal of the characters that we've seen from other actors and stuff like that in those movies. And not kind of allowing us to move on.
I agree. And that's why I think that what's going to happen with the mutants is likely going to be a big mix kind of mashup where it's like they can bring back whoever they want, who they think embodied the role. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to be so hard to, whatever you say, it's going to be incredibly hard to recast young Professor X and young Magneto, definitely. So my guess, honestly, at this point is if the character that Paul Bettany's referring to, this last cameo, is an established character and not some new person played by a new actor who's never been in any of these movies, I think it's going to be Professor X, right? Professor X, and I think that whether it's the end of the show or whatever happens after it, I think that Professor X will kind of serve as the tie-in, you know, being with his powers and being the kind of figure he is in the Marvel Universe as a whole, to kind of, however the crossover happens with whatever magic, I do think it's going to be kind of choice by choice as to who they want to keep. I mean, I'm not sure. Maybe their memories will be erased. Maybe they won't. Maybe they're going to exist in... Maybe they're going to... I mean, who knows what they're going to do? I mean, we really have no idea because this is kind of a new plane that really is just up to the writers to invent and nothing that really we can guess. So I'm interested to see it. And once again, it is just genius of them to use this Fox mutant stuff, or at least it seems like, and we hope that they will be doing, to keep people invested in this. Because like we said before, if this was 10 episodes of just the old sitcom trope, and you know, if it is, we're hoping, and it doesn't seem like, at least, that it's going to be as straightforward as it seems. So
I think the other thing we need to talk about, besides Jimmy Woo, one of the things that's come out of it that's been huge, the music, the theme songs.
Okay.
What's your personal take? What's your favorite?
My favorite. Yeah, I've seen a lot of it going around. I don't know. I mean, I think the 50s theme gets swept on a lot. I think.
Yeah.
I don't know if I should sing it, but
I think
it's
you should.
I don't know. What's your favorite?
I mean, the classic everyone hypes up is the 60s one, but I don't know. I think that it's been one of the small things is having those kind of new theme songs and stuff every week that, I don't know, it just adds a lot of character to the show.
Yeah, those intros were pretty well done for all of them.
Right. And they fit, all of them fit pretty similarly to like an existing, like they're not super creative and original, but I do think that they're still very, very charming. They're not grounded, amusing.
What'd you think of Baby Vision in that one intro?
Oh God, that's what the people think. We need a Baby Vision Jimmy Woo show. Like
Mandalorian, right?
Yes. Okay. So the end of WandaVision.
Okay.
Vision doesn't die, but because of magic shenanigans, he is reverted to a baby, and he has to grow up.
Yeah.
But Wanda has mysteriously disappeared.
Okay. And
all of the other characters, because of other responsibilities or their own callousness, aren't willing to take care of this little baby. Right. And so it comes up to Jimmy Woo, has to drive him across the country from New Jersey to California, where there's a lab or something over there where they can fix him and make
they claim.
Right, exactly. So they claim, so they can make him an adult
and
again.
Maybe along the way he meets another person who transports people / babies, right? A woman, and this woman is a big hit in the show, right? Let's say it's like Darcy, right? But then we find out that Darcy's actress is actually extremely racist and gets kicked off the show. Wouldn't that be allowed?
Yeah. Because we gotta keep it like The Mandalorian. Maybe you even just bring in deleted scenes from The Mandalorian of Gina Carano.
Or like behind the scenes things of her racial outbursts, maybe, if they exist. Who knows? Yes. Right? So we get Ben Shapiro in there, we're done.
But then, and then over time, Jimmy Woo just develops such a deep relationship that they get to the end, and they're at this lab.
Okay.
And it turns out, here's the twist: the lab isn't anything nefarious. Jimmy Woo just can't let Vision grow up because he's been looking. He is infertile, and so he's unable to have children. And this is what he's been needing his whole life. He's been wanting to have kids forever. And so Jimmy Woo, this character everyone loves, makes the selfish decision to keep Vision a baby.
Wow.
I think it would be a masterpiece.
That would be incredible.
It could be called Woo Vision.
Wow, there you go. That's
Hire me, Disney. If you're listening, I'm free.
all right. Well, Disney, if you're listening, I have a better pitch. Screw that pitch, okay? I know you guys are still deciding. You know it's Disney. They probably filmed like 4 different endings for WandaVision, right? And they're gonna choose which one they want. Let's say, okay? What if they release their lowest rated ending, which happens to be their best in my opinion? I have my insider sources. There's an ending where Wanda ends the hex, right? She destroys the hex. She's freed from the control of Agatha and Mephisto, okay? Right? And she's like, Vision, we did it. Vision survives. Yay, happy ending, right? All of a sudden, a red dot appears. A laser-trained dot appears on Vision's head. Wanda says, what's happening? She turns around. You hear, you're just another target.
Oh my god.
And we have Bossk appear. Guess what? He's come to take the bounty on Vision's head. This whole hex, Mephisto, Agatha, it was all just Bossk this whole time.
Oh my god.
And then that's how you get the Marvel Star Wars crossover.
That's genius. See, and here I thought the red dot was going to be Will Smith, and he was going to say, what are we? Some kind of Suicide Squad, and then it was going to cut to black.
Wow. I mean, what can I say?
I mean, you know what? Please, I want to see that made.
Yeah, so if you have any fans of the show who are like animators, you guys want to submit it on YouTube, #BoskVision on social media. Let's go ahead and get that trending. Yeah.
Bossk Vision, yeah. If we get it trending on Twitter, guys,
maybe Disney will see it.
2 Blu-rays.
You'll get 2. Okay. All right. Listen. Let's talk about the giveaways for a minute, all right? So, it turns out no one participates in these giveaways, all right? The last person to do it was you.
Yeah.
So, which we still haven't even got you yours yet, which we have to work on.
Sure.
But we got to raise the stakes somehow. And I'm thinking if people comment #BoskVision on the newest Instagram post for this episode, you will get, look around, look, the Blu-rays competition is back on. And I know you're thinking, what Blu-ray will I be getting? Well, the Blu-ray is going to be, can you guess what the Blu-ray is going to be?
Is it going to be...
Will I take a look? If you can guess
I
what...
would guess...
Guess what movie? Name one movie that's in here. I'll give you some hints, okay? I'll give you some hints. Okay. All these Blu-rays were purchased at the peak of the Blu-ray craze of like 2012. So really nothing past like the year 2012. So
I'm thinking the movie 2012.
That was actually a really good guess, but no, it's not. No, I've decided that the Blu-ray is going to be, drumroll please, Planet Earth, the complete series.
All right.
So, guys, just comment BoskVision, #BoskVision on Instagram. You're going to get Planet Earth, the complete series. It's a great, great film about Earth, and it looks stunning on DVD. This is Blu-ray. This came out in like 2010. It's great. So, definitely do that.
#BoskVision.
#BoskVision. That's 2 S's in case you didn't know.
If there aren't any comments, we're going to be furious.
If there aren't any comments, here's my bet, all right? And maybe people won't comment this because they want to see this, but I doubt they would. Okay? If this gets no comments, I will lock myself in a room, hit record. I will not be allowed to use the internet, and will commit myself to at least 1 to 2 hours of unfiltered Bossk rant. Okay? And
wait,
wherever
are you
that
encouraging
goes.
people?
No, who wants to hear that?
Oh, I see. You're saying you're going to release a 2-hour Bossk?
Yeah.
Oh.
Or, okay, you know what? So messed up. Okay, you know what? We're gonna revitalize it one more time. I don't know what part of this is getting cut and what part is it, but I'm gonna choose the best one. All right. So
we're doing the Austin Powers up, guys.
Okay. Let me check Instagram. Okay. Let me clue you in on something. Okay. So, you're thinking, what kind of likes do we get on these posts? Okay. Well, let me tell you. All right. So our last Instagram post got 2 likes. Okay. Before that, we had 8 likes. Got 6, 15, 5, 20 is the one with the picture of you in it. So we're getting like between 2 to like 10 likes on average. All right. So let's say if this gets 18 likes, Is that too high of a goal? What do you think?
I think 18 is doable.
18 is doable? Okay. 18 likes on Instagram, and Ben and I will do a Bossk episode.
Okay.
All right. I'm dragging you
I don't
into
know what,
this.
all right. I don't know what kind of Bossk content there is to watch. I'm sure we can find some like Clone Wars episodes or something.
Yeah, we'll do a Bossk episode. So that's the goal, and I think that would be funny. And
I think it would be funny too.
And also, you know what? You
And
can still
Nabil will do the whole thing in a Bossk. You heard his impression earlier. You know how impressive it is. Come on.
I don't even know if I should cut that or not. I feel like no one knows who Bossk is besides you and me and Manny probably. But no matter which part was cut and which part wasn't with this giveaway stuff, definitely comment hashtag BosskVision for a prize, whether it be Planet Earth or something else. It'll be likes. You know what? I'm so desperate. If you comment BosskVision, you'll just get to choose. I'll just give you a list of the Blu-rays I have. Literally at this point, I will give you a choice. And I think the Bossk episode will happen regardless, but it'll happen immediately if you get it to 18 likes. So please do that. And any last thoughts? Anything you wanted to talk about that you saw, maybe, if you have time? I don't know.
Well, I do got to go kind of soon, but two things, and they're not necessarily stuff I've seen, although Nomadland just released on Hulu, and I'm looking forward to watching that. I haven't gotten the time yet. I don't know if you've seen that, Nabil, but I'm very intrigued. It looks great.
What's that about?
It's about looks like it's about a woman who, I mean, I've literally only read the synopsis. I know it did a bunch of film festivals and stuff like that, and people seem to love it. But it's about a woman who has some kind of disastrous occurrence in her life. She feels like everything's falling apart, and then she decides to travel the country in a van. And that's all I really know about it. And I think it's probably good that I know that little, because it means I'll have an authentic experience. But everything I've heard it's amazing. That, and then I'm also very interested, but I don't know if I'm gonna pay for the A24 screenings or anything like that in Minari. It's supposed to be releasing about a Korean American family.
It's funny that I'm seeing, No Man Land seems critically acclaimed, very good reviews, lots of news stuff about it. It's also directed by Chloe Zhao, Zhao. I'm not sure how to pronounce that last name, but she's directing the Eternals movie for Marvel.
Huh? Really?
Yeah.
Everything comes back to Marvel.
Everything comes back to Marvel, I guess, which is really interesting. Because Marvel has a reputation for dealing with, in my opinion, they've dealt with a lot of high-end directors, or at some point have. Yep. And I feel like it's 50-50, right? So recently, we've had Taika Waititi, who was critically acclaimed for What We Do in the Shadows and a few other projects he did, and he got a nice, good bit, it seemed, of creative range on Thor Ragnarok. Meanwhile, you have, if you remember, Edgar Wright was attached to Ant-Man, and he left due to creative differences. So, and you have examples of that kind of throughout. So I'm interested to see, because it seems like No Man Land is a pretty serious, right. It seems from what I'm reading here, looks like it might even be an Oscar contender. So it's interesting to see directors go from that to Marvel. Exactly. So I'll be really interested to see how that goes. And of course, I think Marvel allowing directors and creators creative leeway is something that I think about more so now with Sam Raimi directing Doctor Strange, because it's going to be really interesting to see how much they're going to, Sam Raimi has the infamous Spider-Man 3 debacle with Sony.
Right.
So I'd be really interested to know if they're giving him enough range where he can do what he wants, and how much they're making him, because we know that it's going to tie into WandaVision and Spider-Man. So I'm wondering how much he's being able to make his own story. So I guess we'll see.
And hear me out. I think at some point, Tobey Maguire will show up in that movie.
With Doctor Strange?
Since it's supposed to tie into Spider-Man, I think it'll happen.
Honestly, he might be more likely to show up in Doctor Strange than Spider-Man 3.
Right.
Just simply because I think of his relationship with Sam Raimi.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I don't know. We've been hearing a lot of stuff. Tom Holland came out and said, "Oh no, it's not happening. He's not going to be there. I swear." So we'll see. I don't know. Obviously, no one's gonna. Obviously, what was he gonna say? Yes, he's gonna be there. You know what I mean? Right. So I don't know. What do you think? Do you think he's gonna be in Spider-Man 3? Do you think Andrew's gonna be there?
I think they will. Yeah. And I think that they saw the success of Into the Spider-Verse, and now they decided, we're just going to do a live action version of that. especially since we seem to be branching into more multiverse stuff. Maybe in WandaVision, seemingly, and then I mean, we literally have an upcoming movie called The Multiverse of Madness. So I think it'll happen, and I think it'll be a cool thing to see. I know you guys have talked about it on the podcast before, and your kind of takes on it, but I don't know. I think it would be an intriguing idea. I just hope it doesn't because I think it could kind of overshadow it being a Tom Holland like Spider-Man movie. I think it could become so heavily focused on these past actors who have portrayed the role that it loses focus on the central character is supposed to be.
Yeah, I guess we'll really see, because a lot of people are speculating whether because as we know, Dr. Octopus is confirmed,
right.
Like 100% confirmed. Green Goblin is like 90% confirmed, so people have seen Willem Dafoe on set.
Right.
So people are wondering if it's going to be the same version of those characters, or if they're going to change them and alter them. Maybe Toby will come back, but he'll be old and maybe brittled, and who knows? We'll see. It's pretty exciting.
All right, so, and I would love to talk about things like the Last of Us casting.
Yeah.
What was the other thing?
Uncharted.
Oh, well, Uncharted. That's going to be its own mess. Then, yeah. I mean, I would love to talk about a lot of that stuff. Unfortunately, I do have to go.
Yeah.
And so maybe next time. I was going to say the Snyder Cut and We Live in a Society. Which
are you ready to sit down for 4 hours and watch that movie? It's gonna be brutal.
I don't even have HBO Max, and I don't think I'm getting it for the Snyder Cut.
I have a feeling they'll do a free trial around then.
Probably. I think that.
Or you can just pirate it.
Man of Steel and Batman v Superman are like terribly boring. I recently watched Aquaman for the first time, and it was bad, but at least there was like some kind of entertainment value in it. But man, I just do not like Batman v Superman or Man of Steel. I think they're both boring. I think the previous Justice League was also bad. And I am curious about what it's going to turn out to be, but I'm not dying to watch it. And I think it sets a potentially concerning precedent for movies as a whole. But
I definitely want to get into that at some point.
A Bossk episode or something like that. I'd love to kind of get more into that.
All right. Yeah. Well, we'll let you go. We'll let you run, because
I get it. That is actually why I have to go. So
there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Ben Hartvigsen and Bill Sharif coming back at you with a rusty, quick episode. I hope people didn't mind the Bossk moments. We're gonna have to do There's gonna be a lot on the cutting room floor, to say the least, but we'll see. All right. So we'll come back at you next episode, whether it be soon about something else, or you'll definitely see us after the next 2 episodes of WandaVision to talk about how it all went down. Absolutely. And as always, follow at Ben Hartvig, ben.hartvig. Friend him, BH25468 on the PlayStation Network. And follow at Filmatic Podcast on Instagram. You've been listening to Filmatic. This is Nabil Sharif. There you go. And listening to Filmatic. Thank you very much.